this video, we're going to be talking about the brand new Fire King deck that is going to be taking the meta by storm. Now, this deck can do all sorts of things. It can completely combo, and it can also control the pace of the game, which makes it absolutely crazy. And of course, guys, the giveaway is still live. There are only a couple days left. Make sure you guys go ahead and check the link down below. And of course, you must be subscribed to me and following LDB Duel on Instagram. And without further ado, guys, let's get straight into the video. Alright guys, so now we are getting directly into the deck profile. Now again guys, this video is a direct follow-up to my previous video, so if you guys did not watch my previous video, which is like the basic combos, make sure you guys click them. I'll probably throw them up somewhere there so you guys can see. But of course, you guys can see here, starting off with the bread and butter of the deck, it is going to be legendary Fire King Ponix. Now look at this cute little thick boy, right? No way he can cause so much problems. He's going to cause a lot of problems, because basically he's the first effect, which says if your monster was originally fire, is destroyed by a battle card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. So again, it's a really nice effect, very similar to Astrograph Sorcerer or Chronograph Sorcerer or the other Fire Kings in my combos you guys saw. But again, you can special summon this card from your hand. That's not the main effect. The main effect we will be using is if this card is normal or special summon, you can add one Fire King spell trap card directly from your deck to your hand. So that's absolutely crazy. And then he has the mandatory effect, where he states during the standby phase, after this card was destroyed and sent to the graveyard, add this card from your graveyard to your hand. So again, three pretty effects. One effect is if an original fire monster is destroyed by a battle card effect, special summon from the hand. If he's normal special summon, add a Fire King spell or trap card during the standby phase after he's destroyed and he's in the graveyard, add to your hand. One important thing to note about the destruction effect is if he's destroyed and then you reborn that card and you link it off away, that effect will not trigger because he is no longer the same card that was destroyed. But again guys, that is it, I guess, for the main kind of starter, extender, things of that nature card. But now moving on to another three of who's absolutely cracked. It is going to be Fire King High Avatar Kirin. Now this is the remake, or like the souped up version of Kirin, so the original one. This card says this: during the main phase, if this card's in your hand, quick effect, so again during each player's turn, you can destroy one other fire monster in your hand or face up field, and if you do, special summon this card. If this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Fire King monster from your hand or graveyard, except itself of course. Then you can destroy one card. You can only use each effect once per turn. So again, note that it's not you can only use one effect, you can only use each effect, meaning that if we have the way to destroy and summon himself out, and then we destroy another Kirin, we can use that Kirin to reborn a other Fire King card. So again, it is pretty good in that regard. So again, this is the other three of we play in the deck. This is the main way how we play around hand traps, how we play through boards, things of that nature. You know, if you guys saw my combo, Kirin plus Phoenix is a pretty nasty combo, or Ponix, sorry, it's a pretty nasty combo, because again, if Ponix eats a hand trap, which is an effect veiler or an infinite permanence, we can chain Kirin to go ahead and dodge it. And again, this is also another key way of how we kind of loop our resources and always have our main disruptions. And then again, do not forget about the other effect where when you summon, you can destroy one card on the field, meaning that we can destroy a card during our opponent's turn using Kirin. So again, we have multiple layers of disruption. So again, moving on to the next card, guys, it is going to be Sacred Fire King Garunix. Now, I was toying with this card around, messing around with it, and I kind of couldn't really decide if I wanted to play it at 2 or 1. Currently, I'm only on 1 because I felt like 2 was just too much. I was constantly seeing it, and you can only use each effect once per turn. This card says this: if your monster that was originally fired to destroy a battle card effect, you can special summon this card from your graveyard if it was there when the monster was destroyed, or hand, even if not. So again, that's very important to note, because if you pop a card, this card must already be in the graveyard to summon from the graveyard, meaning that if you use Kirin to pop Garunix and summon Kirin, Garunix will not trigger because it must have already been in the graveyard. And then being able to get it from the hand, especially summon it, works very well with like Fire King Island, because you can pop, add on res, use Garunix's effect. And this card says this: if this card is normal or special summon, you can destroy one fire beast, beast warrior, or winged beast monster in your hand, deck, or face on the field. And if you do, this card gains attack, blah blah, whatever. Okay, so the attack effect is kind of a hidden effect where Garunix gets really fat. The main reason why we are going to be using Garunix is just off of the first effect, where we're going to be summoning it from hand, dropping him onto the field, using his effect on field to destroy a card from the graveyard. Things of that nature gets really nasty. So you guys can see kind of what it is. And then moving on to the one-ofs, guys, we are going to be playing, oh sorry, this needs to be the Arvada, like this. Okay, there we go, perfect. But then moving on, guys, we are going to be playing the double Fire King Avatar Arvada. I thought this was a high Fire King, but it is going to be Fire King Avatar Arvada. Now, I'm not sure if you guys remember, this card came out in about, I think, Circuit Break, and it's reprinted in the structure deck. This card has the effect where it says when a monster effect is activated, while this monster is on your field, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy one other fire monster in your hand or field. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this card. People used to play this card in Infernoid when it was initially released. Yeah, but if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target one fire beast, beast warrior, or winged beast monster in your graveyard, except Arvada, special summon it, has effects negated. Also, it is destroyed during the end phase. Now, Arvada is really good because this is kind of how we facilitate our negations, Nibiru negations, things of that nature, because again, a lot of decks aren't really putting up negations, so being able to get negations are really good, and Arvada is very good and very powerful in doing so. I was at 3 previously, but there are so many ways to get this card. It's really good. And then Arvada acts as a pseudo extender because you can pop Arvada off of Garunix and then use Arvada to reborn a card, summon it out, or you can use Garunix to pop Kieran, then pop a Kieran. Kieran can go ahead and reborn our Phonix or Ponix, pop a card, and then because you have Garunix, Garunix can go ahead and summon, and then Kieran. And you guys can kind of see like the main resource loop that this deck has. But now moving on to more one-ofs, we end up playing the 1 Fire King Avatar Barong. Now again, Barong is an older card. If it faces a Fire King monster you control is destroyed by card effect, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. During the standby phase, after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, add 1 Fire King card from your deck chance. So again, Barong gets a lot better, or infinitely better I would say, because we have all sorts of other super OP Fire King cards, and I will explain them later on. But that's kind of it for Barong. Again, they all have the same effect where if it's destroyed, Barong is no exception to that effect, especially when like you go Garunix, dump the Barong, then Barong activates, so then you end up getting Barong plus the Ponix in your hand, so it gets really good. Then we are playing the new one, so Fire King Avatar Rangbali or Hanuman, depending on whatever we get in the TCG. But this card says this: if a face-up Fire King monster you control is destroyed by card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Again, they all have the same effect, especially the new ones. When a spell trap card effect or effect is activated while it's on your field, you can negate the activation if you destroy one other. So again, he is the other version of Arvada. So that's kind of it for the core of the Fire King cards you guys want to play. You want to play 3 Ponix, you want to play 3 Kieran for sure, like no matter what, do not argue with me on that. You can technically play 2 Ponix like later on, but right now just play 3. And then we have the 1 Garunix. This can be argued to play a second, but I mean, you know what I mean, so just deal with it as is. Then we have the double Arvada, and then we have the 1 Barong, and we have the 1 Rangbali. And then moving on, we play, of course, triple Cashier Fenrir. I mean, there's not much to explain. Fenrir is just like one of the most broken cards like in history of Yu-Gi-Oh. This card needs to get hit to 1 or banned if anything. So again, not much to say about Fenrir there, just more board breaking presence, especially because it's a deck that you don't really need to search much, or you can always play under Nibiru, so having Fenrir is just really nice. The reason I play it is because you want to play Cashier Riser. Now, we don't really use it for any of its effects. The only reason why we use it is there are very niche interactions with like Ponix and Fenrir, where like Fenrir can go ahead and get Rise Art, and then Ponix can get the Field Spell, and then Field Spell pop Rise Art and continue playing through there. So again, this is absolutely optional. If you want, you can definitely cut Rise Art and play the 3rd Arvada, and you know, nobody's going to be too mad at that. But again, moving on to the final monster of the main engine, it's going to be Diabellstar. I mean, there's not much to say about this. Diabellstar plus the Wanted engine is just absolutely crazy in this deck, especially post I can't remember the set, Terminal World and Photon Nightmare, Labyrinth of Nightmare, or whatever it's called, Phantom Nightmare. There you go. It gets a lot better, of course. So again, that's it for that engine over there. Super good, especially because this is how you get your Ponix and keep playing through hand traps, disruptions, things of that nature. And then moving on, we are rocking triple Tenki. Now, Tenki can get us our Rangbali. It can also get us our Arvadas. It can also get us our Barong. So Tenki is very good. And on top of that, Tenki pairs very well with the Wanted card. So you can activate Wanted to get the Diabellstar, use Tenki to go ahead and get like Arvada, normal summon Arvada. So now we have essentially, you know, the protection depending on what's in our hand. Then we can go ahead and use like Diabellstar, Snake Eye, whatever, send the Tenki and keep playing from there. So it works very well hand in hand. So again, that's why I wanted to play Tenki. I have seen people think about cutting this card. In terms of consistency, right now you definitely don't want to cut it. Of course, when we get more cards to play in this deck, by all means you can cut it. But moving on, we are rocking our triple Fire King Sanctuary. This is a new card, Fire King Sanctuary. I believe it's an ultra rare in the deck. And this card says this: when this card is activated, you can place 1 Fire King Island from your deck face up in your field spell zone. Once returned, if a card in your field spell zone would be destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy 1 fire monster in your hand or face up on the field instead. So again, it gives you another another layer of protection for that awesome Fire King Island, because that card is absolutely crazy. And then it says once per turn, if your opponent spell summons a monster, you can immediately, after this effect resolves, XYZ summon one Fire XYZ monster. So again, this is another layer of disruption, and one of the main forms of disruption in my opinion. So again, the main combo is going to be Ponyx, get Sanctuary, get Fire King Island, pop the Ponyx, and then go ahead and grab the Grunix effect, summon out, dump the Barong. Then during our opponent's turn, we basically use Barong to get Kieran in our hand, Ponyx plant himself back, Kieran pop the Ponyx. I'm sure you guys saw the combo, and if you didn't, again, it's gonna be somewhere up here. Make sure you guys go ahead and click that button. Then moving on from Sanctuary, we are playing the Fire King Island. Now again, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Fire King Island or not, but this card is very old card. Wasn't really played all too much, but this card says this: if it is face-up card in the field zone, is sent to the graveyard or banished, destroy all monsters on the field, or all monsters you control. Sorry, if it was all monsters on the field, it'd be a lot better. You can only use one effect once per turn, only once that turn. During your main phase, you can destroy one monster in your hand or you control, and if you do, add one Fire King monster from your deck to your hand. So again, very similar to Dragonic Diagram. Unfortunately, it states a monster, it doesn't state any card. So again, Diagram's a lot better. And then if you control no monsters, you can special summon one Fire Wing Beast type monster from your hand. So again, it's just really good. I mean, you want to play 12 because you always want one in deck for Sanctuary. And again, this card is really good. And even if your opponent outs it, all your cards flow here, so you don't really care if you end up losing Fire King Island. Then moving on to the final, or I would say the second last new card we play, it is going to be Fire King Skyburn. This card is absolutely crazy. So this card says target an equal number of Fire King monsters you control and cards your opponent controls, destroy them. If a Fire King card you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish the card from graveyard instead. Again, the second effect isn't as important, but it is kind of moving on. It can kind of have like a big barrier, not a barrier or whatever. It gives you like a big barrier of protection, a layer of protection. Like if your opponent lightning storms, you can banish and protect all your cards. I doubt an opponent's gonna sign a lightning storm against Fire Kings, but you guys know what I mean. But the main effect is target an equal number of Fire King monsters you control and cards your opponent controls, and then destroy them. So again, really crazy, kind of good against backrow decks and face effects, things of that nature, especially for follow-ups as well. That's because all of our Fire King monsters float, so you guys can see kind of where the disruption goes. It is very similar to the Unchained card, where it's like pop, whatever that card's called, like Abomination, Untold, or whatever. But moving on to the other non-engine guys, of course we're playing Triple Imperm because it's one of the best cards in the meta. Triple Ash Blossom again, mass coverage, Triple Tone Lockbird, and then the Double Nibiru. So again, we're playing 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 non-engine slots, which is really good. And then again, with this card, it technically becomes an engine slot with the Riser. So again, it kind of works hand in hand. And I really like how Fenrir kind of has niche applications. So like with Infernoble, you can play Riser, or just in this deck as well. So again, that's it for the main deck, guys. Absolute 40 cards. Now moving on to the extra deck, of course, we are playing a bunch of Link ones. So we're playing Anima, we played the Almiraj, and we played Link Rebo. So again, Anima and Link Rebo are specifically for Ponyx over here, because there's like very niche interactions where like Link Rebo, just one is good enough to have infinite Link Rebo, so then we can dodge what is it, like additional imperms. Anima's as well good, especially in grind games where our opponent can't really play around it or they forget. And then Almiraj is crucial to the combos. Like I said before, check them out. We got the IP, or sorry, not the IP, we got the SP Little Knight and the IP Masquerena. This is like the little package that you can end up playing in your deck, where like you can go IP into SP banished, and SP banished again, and then we can play around our own disruptions or our own field disruptions, things of that nature. So it works very well. Then the one Duelo Chimera. So in my combo video, in combo number 2, I believe it was, you can go ahead and end on a Link 2 monster instead and pop it. So I was thinking of like, oh yeah, you can end on Sunlight Wolf or Ahita, but ending on Duelo Chimera is a lot better. The reason for it is this card says this: so not only do all fire monsters gain 500 attack, so it would be really good in OTK potentials. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one fire monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So again, it is really good in that regard as well, because we can actually use Kieran to pop Duelo Chimera to summon out Kieran, and then Duelo Chimera will trigger to add us any of our fire monsters, and I believe it can add Ash Blossom as well. So you know what I mean, there's merit in actually playing Duelo Chimera. So it's pretty funny because like the other cards aren't really that good, but Duelo Chimera is really good. And then we of course have the one Sunlight Wolf. So again, this card's really good because if we summon to a zone it points to, we can go ahead and add back a fire monster. So again, very similar to Duelo Chimera. This is just like a little different because like if you can't extend past Sunlight Wolf, so you can't get the third monster on board, you just make the Duelo Chimera, and then Kieran pops the Duelo to get additional follow-up play, things of that nature. Then we have the one Hita. So again, Hita works very well because Ash Blossom's in the format, and there are all sorts of other ways that we can kind of disrupt our opponent and use it to our advantage to go ahead and combo off. Speaking of which, we can also play Decode Talker Heat Soul. So again, you guys saw it in the combo. It's a very nice combo, honestly, in what this card does, because you pay 1,000, gain draw a card, and then it works very well with like Sunlight Wolf, because what we can do is we can go ahead and go Link Rebo, so Sunlight Wolf, then Link Rebo under Sunlight Wolf to add back like a Kieran, and then Link Sunlight Wolf and Link Rebo away into our Deco Soccer Heat Soul. Then Heat Soul can go ahead and draw a card, so it is really good in that regard. And because we actually play around a lot of cards during our opponent's turn, IP gets a lot better. Speaking of IP, we can IP into Appaloosa during our opponent's turn, or we can just hard make it. I'm sure you guys saw from the combo, there are a lot of ways to go ahead and link summon Appaloosa, or just link climb in general, especially if we're playing against like an Unchained matchup or a Chairman matchup where like ending on a Heat Soul draw isn't as good. We just make Appaloosa get 2 free negates, and we can still trigger a bunch of cards. And speaking of which, we do have Access Code Talker. This is kind of like your bomb card. You want to drop him, just absolutely OTK your opponent. It's very easy to do this as well. Fire King swarm the board very powerfully, and their follow play is just absolutely lethal. It's FDK level, so it's crazy. Then we have the one Amphibious Swarm Ship Amber Wheel. I'm gonna make this guy a Ghost Rider because this card is crazy. So again, gains 200 attack for each link monster. He's not as good as he will be in Photon or whatever it's called, Phantom Nightmare, but he still is legit. If this card is destroyed, you can target one Link 3 or lower monster in either graveyard, special summon it. If a Link 3 or lower monster on the field is destroyed while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card. And again, it says you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. Now you can only use one effect, meaning we can use this card, we can pop it, right, and then we can reborn another card, and then for our opponent outs that card, this card gives us an additional pop. So we have a lot of layers of protection, things of that nature, chump blocking, you feel me? And then moving on, we play the one Dingersu, the Orcus of the Evening Stars. Now, I mean, Ding is just really good. It's really easy to make this card. We get protection. We can always protect our board from annoying effects. So Ding is really good. Non-targeting disruption send is really good. And then this is the other card, right? This is the new card that I was talking about. This is the main form of disruption. If this card's XYZ summon, you can destroy all other monsters on the field. You can detach one material from this card, target one spell trap card, destroy it, and if you do, this card gains 500 attack. If this card is destroyed while it has material, you can special summon fighting monsters up to a number of materials, non-targeting. It gets pretty nasty, trust me. But the reason why I was saying this is important is because this is the main reason. So like I said, showcasing my combos, some are up there, guys. Shameless plug. I'm also doing a giveaway, make sure you remember that. But basically, we can go Kieran pop, and then we have Garunix Kieran on board. Then Sanctuary will trigger when our opponent special summons to go ahead and go into Yang of the Fire Kings. Then Fire Kings will go ahead and trigger to nuke the board of all other monsters. And then the other effect is actually really good because for our follow-up play, we can use Fire King Island to pop Yang to add. And then because Yang was destroyed, you can special summon Fire King monsters from your graveyard up to the number of materials. And you probably don't really have probably haven't detached. And if you did, you probably only detached one, so you can reborn one non-targeting. So if you want to, we can reborn the Garunix and keep looping the Garunix, things of that nature. We can also use like other cards as well, so it gets really nasty, especially like being able to loop Arvada. So I think the resource loop and resource management in this deck is actually going to be very good, especially if Yu-Gi-Oh is headed towards that type of game. And then of course the one Sky Crisis. No, I am not playing Zeus, and the reason for it is I want you guys to understand something. Okay, Zeus says this. Zeus says detach 2 material, send all other cards from the field to the graveyard, right? Zeus is actually anti-synergy because if we send Fire King Island to the graveyard, Fire King Island will go ahead and nuke the board, destroy all of our monsters. No reason on having Zeus or anything like that. So I mean, yeah, so we're just playing the one Star Slayer. And then for recommended cards or other cards, you can play the Snake Eye Ash and the Flamebird. I showed them in the combos, but I just feel like because they're like the one of bricks, it's not worth it right now. Of course they get a lot better when we get the additional support, but right now I wouldn't suggest it. But if you want that additional power level, you know what I mean, if you want to be able to make Appaloosa consistently or other kind of nasty boards, definitely play it because the payoff is well worth it. And then speaking of which, guys, we do play the one Salamangreat, Power Phoenix, or you can choose to play it depending on kind of the way you want to go. Of course, in the OCG, the OTA gets a lot better because like when you summon this card and you pop it, I actually don't think it's Power Phoenix. I think it's Rage Phoenix. I think that's the card that I'm looking for because we're not playing Power Phoenix. So let me see where it is. It's Salamangreat, Rage Phoenix. Yeah. So we're actually not playing it. We're playing this one instead. I don't know why I was reading that because that one sucks. The reason I'm playing Raging Phoenix is this card says this. Blah blah. If you face a fire monster you control is destroyed by battle card effect while this card's in your graveyard, you can target one of those monsters, special summon this card, and if you do, this card gains attack. So it works very well hand in hand with World Sea Dragon Zealantis because Zealantis says it takes one effect monster, meaning that you can take the link for it and just go into it. So when we have Raging Phoenix in the graveyard, we can go ahead and pop one of our cards, and then we have Zealantis, then Raging Phoenix reborns and gains the attack. So we have like 6k or like 7k already on board off these 2 cards, so it gets really good. Of course it gets a lot better moving on when we get like all the other support cards. And then speaking of which, we do have the one Nadir Servant with the Garura and the Dogmatica Maximus. So if you guys cannot afford the Wanted, Sinful package or whatever, it's well known that Nadir is a good replacement with the Garura and the Maximus, of course, because you go Nadir, dump Garura, get Maximus, banish the Garura, use it to dump Shurag, and then Shurag can go ahead and add us our Ponix. The only issue is we don't have like access to our extra deck toolbox, but it doesn't really matter. And then of course, moving on, or speaking of Tri-Brigade Star, we end up playing the Kit and the Fractal and the Revolt again, because these cards just work hand in hand, because Garunix or Sacred Garunix can actually go ahead and destroy Kit, because it destroys one fire beast warrior or whatever, so we can destroy Kit can dump Nerval can get Fractal, and we keep playing from there. And then the Revolt, and then of course you guys can play Pot of Prosperity for more consistency. And then like I said before, guys, one Terminal World comes out, one Photon, I can't remember the name, Phantom Labyrinth or whatever, Phantom Nightmare comes out, Bonfire, Populous, and Promethean Princess gets absolutely crazy. So that's why I feel like it's really important to get a leg up on our opponents when it's heading on to like January, February time. So it's really good to kind of invest into this deck, try this deck out, because I do think that it can definitely do well at like a local to regional level. Currently at a YCS level I wouldn't, so I'd be surprised if at Bologna they play it. But again, guys, that's just my opinion. Make sure you guys check out the links down below for the giveaway as well, guys. My name's Hamza, and like I always say, guys, keep on shining, never on dreams. Peace.